if the towers had slammed to the ground, the seismic chart would have reflected it. And that did not happen. That's the biggest smoking gun. One of the first responders said, I don't remember the sound of a building hitting the ground. Somebody told me that it was measured on the Richter scale. I don't know how true that is. If the building is hitting the ground that hard, how do I not remember the sound of it? There's another story that came up. A fellow who worked in the 27th floor of the North Tower, when all the mayhem started, he decided he wasn't going to get any work done, so he was going to go home. He lived on Staten Island. So he walks past Tower 2 towards the ferry terminal. Tower 2, looks like the fires are out, building's in good shape. He gets to the ferry terminal, which is up close, and you can't see the towers from there because there's some bigger buildings blocking your view. And then some idiot, well, he thought it was an idiot, came up to them and said that the South Tower just collapsed. Well, that can't be. They just walked past the building. It was, fires were out, building was in good health. They didn't feel a building slam to the ground. They didn't hear it slam to the ground. I mean, this guy must be an idiot, right? They get on the ferry goes out in the Hudson River, and they now can see there's only one tower standing. He was just totally blown away. That part of the building doesn't make a thud when it hits. That's how the building landed. Earlier that year, in January, there was an earthquake in Midtown Manhattan. The seismic station that recorded the earthquake recorded the principal wave, the primary wave hitting, and then the secondary wave. And the timing between those two tells you how far away the epicenter is from the recording station. That was a magnitude 2.4. When the North Tower came apart, it was a magnitude 2.3, which is similar, but it doesn't look at all the same. First time I saw this, I went, did they overfilter it, or what's going on? Is that fake data? As it turns out, this is only the surface waves. No S wave and no P wave. S waves and P waves travel through the earth. If the building had slammed down on bedrock, it'd be like ringing it like ringing a tuning fork. And the signal would have traveled to the seismic recording station. It's the Palisades one, which is just north of there, about 20 miles. But there's only the surface wave. Now let's think of that. Imagine if you have King Kong reaches over and grabs the tower and chucks it up into space. Just lifts off that weight and removes it. You no longer have that weight pressing down on the earth. It's like getting off your mattress in the morning. When you get up, the mattress recovers. That's a surface wave, from unloading. But no banging, just the removal of the weight. The earthquake, you see that, call it the snout that leads up to the big wave, this little thing here, the primary wave, and the P wave travels quicker. It's like snapping a rubber band. And then the S wave is more of like wiggling a jump rope. And then the surface waves. That's from the earthquake. Now here's from the North Tower's demise. The ground only shook for 8 seconds. And there's no lead up to it that you can see. It takes 9.5 seconds to throw a bowling ball off the roof and have it hit the ground. Why did the ground shake for only 8 seconds? It didn't hit the ground. Here's the seismic chart. This is after Tower 2's demise. And then Tower 1 makes only a 2.3, and that's estimated, the equivalent of a seismic, of an earthquake. But that's measured from the surface waves. Then we notice down here, the Fox Islands had a little earthquake. That's what that black cluster is. But would you believe, Building 7 is a non-seismic event. You can't really see it picked out of background noise. A 47-story building crashing to the ground. Look at all these quarry blasts. They're blowing up rock quarries in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. They're recorded. Maybe controlled demolitions don't create seismic waves, S&P waves. Well, Seattle Kingdom, they blew that up in earlier, like I think it was in 2000, in March or April, I forget the date, March 26, 2000, something like that. And it has primary wave and the secondary wave. You can see that little snout leading up to the bigger wave. Now, how long did the ground shake there? Of the major part of the event? Well, to measure the equivalent in height, it takes about 4 seconds to drop a bowling ball off the roof of the Kingdom and have it hit the ground. Yet the ground shook for the major part of this was 9 seconds, but still there was more after that. So that would be equivalent to 20 seconds instead of 8 seconds for the towers. And for Building 7, there's 5 different recording stations in the New York area. They calculated when the S&P wave should have arrived at each of the stations. They calculated it because there was nothing that was measurable from background noise. You can't even guess where it is in here. As for the surface wave, you can kind of make out where the surface wave is here, but at this MANY station, that's in southern part of Connecticut, I think. They couldn't even guess where that was here. They could only calculate when the S&P wave should have arrived. I put 6.4 seconds on here because that's the time it would take to drop a bowling ball off the roof of Building 7 and have it hit the ground. To give you an idea about how long you would guess that the ground would shake. If it's like the Kingdom, it would be more than twice that. Let's say 15 seconds, you would expect to see some major shaking going on. And you don't even see a signal as long as the free fall time of a bowling ball. But this is really exaggerating the vertical scale to see if you can see anything from background noise. That's a huge smoking gun. The building could not have slammed to the ground. Now, so what happened? Well, the first building to go was Tower 2. If you turn that building to powder and just was left with the bottom 16 stories and dropped that to the ground, that's the equivalent seismic signal that was recorded for Building 2. And for Building 1, if you turned all of it but the bottom 20 stories to dust, you would get the seismic signal that was recorded, approximately. So all of this stuff and that height is unaccounted for. The towers, Tower 1 had the same magnitude as the Kingdom, but it's 30 times, that's 3 times 10, 30 times more potential energy, height and mass. So it should at least be more than that. But the Kingdom, was larger than these. For Building 7, the seismic signal was equivalent to just the bottom 2.5 stories. Houston, we have a problem.